Hi and welcome back everyone to Rabbit Hole Stories with another exciting guest. All our guests are interesting and exciting, aren't they?
Of course they are. Damn right.
But today, I think we had the first guest, if I'm not mistaken, from Africa.
Absolutely.
Which is Mary, and it was an amazing conversation to really dive down into what makes Bitcoin tick in Africa. What the vast differences are. I think also what's sometimes being a bit overhyped by us Bitcoiners. And obviously Bitcoin gaming, which was, as a gamer, like as a hobby gamer, that was fun to see as well.
Yeah, Mary grew up in the Philippines, moved to Nigeria, and has been living there for a while now. And it was fascinating insight into what Bitcoin's like in Africa, in Nigeria. Yes. And yeah, she's an avid gamer. She's got me onto a couple of the games that she mentioned in the episode that I've been playing in my spare time, but earning sats at the same time. So yeah,
so another waste.
Yeah, exactly. And I think what I'm going to do, actually, the sats that I do earn from playing this game now and again, I think I might just donate to people when I'm orange pilling and things like that. So I think that's a good way to recycle those sats and my time in that way.
And if you want to know how Bitcoin gaming works, how you can earn sats, or what the current state of affairs is in Nigeria, make sure to listen into this episode, and let's go down the rabbit hole with Mary.
Let's do it. Hello everyone, welcome back to Rabbit Hole Stories, yet another episode here with Joelle. And we've got a lovely guest here today with us. It's Mary Imasuen. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. Hey guys.
Hey, thank you for coming on and having a chat with us. I hope you're well. As you probably already know, Rabbit Hole Stories, we're all about how you got into Bitcoin and why you stayed in the space. So I think, if you don't mind, you've probably used to introducing yourself many times on different podcasts, but if you wouldn't mind, for our benefit, please introduce yourself slightly and then just give us a little bit of an understanding how you got into Bitcoin and how you fell down that Bitcoin rabbit hole for us, please.
Sure, of course. So I'm not the best at introductions, so I keep learning every time.
You and me both, Mary. You and me both.
But I'm into a lot of things, and predominantly I'm a podcaster, Bitcoin gamer, and I like calling myself a Bitcoin lifestyle hacker. So what that means is I find interesting ways you can incorporate Bitcoin into your daily life. And so I love like creating content around those three major topics. And I work at Bitnob, so I do, I'm part of the growth team. So I handle media, and so I handle all the content, written content, media stuff. I also I'm part of the Thunder Games team, so which is really cool. I have so much fun. We just launched a brand new game, Bitcoin Blocks. Go play it. Shameless plug.
Plug away. We'll put the link in the show notes, I think, Joelle.
Sweet. So I handle like tournaments and also help around with promotions as well. Then I'm also part of the Global Bitcoin Fest team. So Global Bitcoin Fest, what they do is they host weekly Twitter spaces that it focuses on a particular country in the world. So we last week we did Bulgaria. So we talk about the Bitcoin space in Bulgaria. This coming week this week we're doing Benin Republic. So we're almost 50 countries, if not 50 already.
Wow.
So I'm part of that team, and it's really great. Yeah, like it's really interesting hearing about Bitcoin adoption in different parts of the world and how people use Bitcoin there. So we always listen to really great stories. Yeah, so that's about it, I guess.
I think Bulgaria is one of those countries that has like a lot of Bitcoin on their not on like their balance books, but apparently they have a lot like in country, or like one of the biggest holders in Europe. So that's quite interesting.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's quite fascinating. We had a really good time in the Bulgaria space, like a lot of interesting stories about the country and the economy and the history. And yeah, it's just quite vibrant. And I love the fact that like different countries have different vibes and like how their perspective to Bitcoin is so unique. Like if, when you're in the West, you feel like that's the only place in the world, but it's really
Right.
humbling to hear like different parts, like the different perspectives from different parts of the world. So I really enjoy that.
That's fascinating, because you get to explore and travel around the world, and you start to see the adoption of Bitcoin in different places of the world. Do you notice a difference between one place to another, or is it generally the same kind of adoption and the same kind of attitude towards Bitcoin, or does that differentiate between place to place, do you think?
That's a really good question. I think it's different from country to country, because like one thing about Bitcoin that I learned is that when you can't separate Bitcoin and the culture. So
Right.
the culture of that country kind of affects the perspective that people have towards Bitcoin. So take, for instance, Nigeria. Nigerians are typically very entrepreneurial. So it makes a lot of sense to see them dabble into Bitcoin from the perspective of making short-term gains in terms of like buying and selling on an exchange. Rather than using it as a medium of exchange, like being able to buy stuff, from different stores. So like making short-term gains is actually what people find appealing, because they feel like they can make money off of Bitcoin, and it shows because like we have a a higher number of Bitcoin transactions in Nigeria in particular. So yeah. I just realized that I was meant to share my Bitcoin story. I forgot.
That's all right. We can defer that until later. We're on a roll now, Mary, so that's fine.
Cool.
You carry on.
But I think one of the big part of your story is, Mary, you obviously live in Nigeria now. For anyone going to your Twitter profile, you see a Turkish flag, you see a Nigerian flag, and you also see a Filipino flag. What's that all about?
Oh, that's a really good question. So I was born in Turkey. So I stayed there. My mom and dad actually met there. And I was born there. So it is a major part of my life. In fact, like, a lot of my cultural perspective was influenced by the Turkish culture, actually. So I know that one thing about my dad's Nigerian, my mom's Filipino. So like the thing about my dad wasn't the typical African man. Like, for those who are listening, like, you know what I mean. Like, he's not the typical African man. In fact, when he was growing up in Nigeria, people used to call him the black white man, because people looked at him like weird, like, yo, you are Nigerian, bro. Like, why are you acting different? But
Right.
It turned out that was just my dad's nature. So, when I was born, like, my mom and dad decided that they were to teach us a culture, a brand new culture that they defined by themselves. So there was a lot of Turkish influence, and interestingly, there was a huge like Filipino community in Turkey. So growing up, like, spent a lot of time with the Filipino community. They would come to our house and we'd go to theirs and eat Filipino food. So I was very in tune with the Turkish culture and the Filipino culture. I was sent to an American school, so I had American training. So like, I know American history. They fed us American history for 4 years straight. Like, yo, I think I could tell
Wow.
the American history better than a typical American. Like,
Which is not hard, like they're not good at the history.
So that was also another influence. And, I used to also listen to a lot of British bands. So like,
Nice.
British music, like my favorite.
Naturally.
Which bands?
Sorry?
Which bands?
Arctic Monkeys and Muse are my ultimate favorite. Like,
Nice.
I just love them so much.
Nice.
So when I was growing up, I also went to a couple of international schools. So my best friend is from Egypt, had Indonesians as friends too. So I was really exposed to like different cultures, except African culture, which is really interesting. It's funny how it happened. Although we had a couple of Nigerians come and visit us at home, and my dad did interact with Nigerians in the community there, but we didn't know much about Nigeria until we came to Nigeria, I think 2006 or so. And so that's when my journey of like understanding Nigeria and the Nigerian culture started. So for me, even though I am or Nigerian or partially Nigerian, like I had to learn the culture and from a different lens, right? It's not like from the lens of this is my country. It's more like kind of like a tourist, but a tourist that stays longer. So I had to learn. I decided to just, study people, study the different cultures, different tribes. In fact, like when I was in university, there was one course, and it's a general studies course. I studied law though, but they gave like this general studies course where you had to learn about the different cultures in Lagos State, because I'm based in Lagos State.
Okay.
And I literally took it seriously. Like my friends didn't care because they were like, man, I know I already live here, or I'm already Lagosian, so whatever. But I literally sat down and read the book and took it seriously and started like asking my classmates, like, which part of Lagos are you from? And I started studying their behavior and was like, oh, it makes sense because historically, like, this is what you guys are known for in this area. So that is how I approached Nigeria and, and Nigerian culture. And then when I got into Bitcoin, I started using that same approach. So when I'm called on to podcasts, I think my approach is always like from the cultural perspective, and I'm more practical in terms of my like interpretation of Bitcoin in Nigeria. Because I took time to try and understand the people and how they react or how they view certain things. I'm not saying I'm perfect, but like this is what I've observed, and and it's so nice to be able to like share this perspective to other people, especially outside of Africa, because one thing I noticed is that there is a lot of curiosity when it comes to like Africa, because people still think there's some people out there in the world, which is really crazy to me, who think that Africa is one country.
Right.
So like there is
It's a fucking
a lot.
continent.
54 countries.
I know, right? Like, but like, there's this sense of curiosity. People want to know more. It looks like, it looks like a mysterious country. People still think we live in huts.
Yeah.
Right.
I literally had the same conversation with a friend of mine in France last week, where I was like, you do know that like they're not only like antelopes and lions, like the typical like savanna images from Africa. Like there are legit huge economies down there. Just speaking about like the Nigerian economy, in contrast, obviously not as big maybe as like the American, but nothing really is. But like these people, that you have internet, you have phones, like you have modern societal access.
Yeah, people, I don't understand why people still believe otherwise. It's just nuts to me.
Because most people are ignorant, I think.
There's also, I would say that a little bit of it is our fault, because one, I don't know where it came from. I'm yet to understand where, but even though we are blessed and we are rich in terms of resources and manpower and all that, and talent and creativity, something was planted in us to like look down on what we have. Like there's still a lot of people who feel like, oh my gosh, I want to go to America, that is my dream, this, that, like things are going to change for me if I go there, my life will be even better. But they don't look, if they took a step back and literally looked at their country and the opportunities available, they would see that they are way better off here in Africa than abroad, right? The only difference is that there is a system abroad, like in the West, there is a set system. There are people who follow the law and execute it. There are people who are able to say, oh, this person is doing a wrong thing, let me call the police. That's the only thing, that's the only difference. But like, if we could, apply the same sense to Africa, like, we have if we had better leadership, if we do execute the laws that are already in place, and follow through. Like, it is possible for Africa to be really great, a nice place to stay. Because, I mean, come to think of it, for example, if you're in Lagos and you meet a foreigner in Lagos, it is not uncommon for you to meet this foreigner and ask them, hey, what do you think about Nigeria? Some of them say, well, most of them, not some, but most of them say they love it here. They don't want to leave. In fact, like, there are some Filipino, like, there's a huge Filipino community in Nigeria, and most of them have been here for like 25, 30 years. They have family here and all that. Like, they've literally built roots here. There are a lot of Lebanese people, Indians, who are like, they're not going anywhere. They take Nigeria as their home. And when you ask them why they like Nigeria, like, are you crazy? They'll be like, there's so much, like, so many opportunities here, and it's a lot more comfortable for them than in their other countries. And you can see there are also some Americans, there are British people, there are different people from different parts of the world that prefer to stay in Africa, because when they've already compared their reality in their home country with what's available in Africa. Just because they don't tell you expressly, right? Like, doesn't mean that they're not aware. So I think if we as Africans would step back and just actually appreciate the good that we have. I'm not saying we're perfect. There's still a lot of crazy stuff happening in Africa. We could definitely do better, but there are places that we are doing better. We are doing well. Take, for example, our banking system. I know that banks are having bad rep right now, but I can send money to someone, in another state, in Nigeria. Nigeria is divided into 36 states. Another state in Nigeria, and they can receive that cash that I send through my bank like that. But that's not the case in the U.S., for example. I mean, it takes time. It has to be sent to a particular branch. Like, it's crazy. But for us, it's so normal.
You actually bring up a very interesting point, because I think a lot of people don't realize this. What was the number? I think last time I read, like, almost 22 countries in Africa have real-time settlement, clearance, and payment structures in their banking systems. Again, folks, Africa is a continent, not one country. So there are different currencies, different systems, obviously different languages as well. And if you look to, like, Europe, if you especially look to America, they still don't have real-time money. They have to pay an extra premium on, like, Cash App and Venmo and these things. So it's always crazy to me, even if I see, like, certain Bitcoin documentaries, like, portraying Africa as, like, a victim or whatever. I'm like, get the fuck out of here, because they got the better systems in place than you guys do. It's just, again, possibly so you'd say it's a problem of branding, less an actual problem within the country then?
Yeah, I would say that, like, not many people are out there talking about the good sides of the African country they're from. They're so quick to say, oh, it's poor, it's this, we're suffering, blah, blah, blah. Okay, take, for instance, you can have, imagine someone earning $5,000 in Nigeria. That could be, I think that should be about 4 million naira. Such a person can, if they wanted to celebrate their birthday, they can literally shut down a hall, right? They can shut down a hall that will seat like over 100 people, get catering and everything, and that will be like the biggest birthday bash. You can't do that with $5,000 in the West. That is not possible.
Half of my family's birthdays are coming up. I know where I'll be celebrating.
You hear a lot in the Bitcoin space with the likes of Alex Gladstein doing a lot of reporting around the economies in developing countries, developing parts of the world, and Africa comes up quite a lot. Are you happy with the representation that we're putting out there as Bitcoiners, or is there a lot of misinterpretation to Africa and the Bitcoin space within Africa?
I think for the most part, it is quite positive. Like, Bitcoiners are actually painting Africa from a positive light. What I really appreciate about Bitcoiners is that they realize that Africa is actually a place where Bitcoin can actually work. The best use case, we can experience the best use cases of Bitcoin in Africa. I was writing an article today for Bitnob. It's for work, but I had to calculate like how much 2,000 sats is worth in different African currencies. And when it came to Nigeria, I saw that 2,000 sats could buy food, right? Like 10,000 sats could do a couple of other good things, you know, like it is possible to actually do something more with 10,000 sats, for instance. Of course, like due to inflation, like the amount of things you could buy with that 2,000 sats has drastically reduced, but like it can mean something for somebody. At least like someone's lunch is secure, like at least. And when I saw these numbers, I was like, this is really cool. And I was just so amazed at just how far 10,000 sats could go. And I'm not saying this from the point of view of, oh, Africa's poor or whatever, but when you see just how far Bitcoin, like how much Bitcoin can positively impact Africa, I'm just so grateful every time a Bitcoiner talks about Bitcoin in Africa and points out the huge potential Bitcoin can bring to Africa. I just really hope that more Africans would jump on board and actually accept this and see ways that it can actually be a reality for them. That's still lacking. And maybe because they're already so used to the dollar or their local currency, that's why they don't see how far Bitcoin can go for them. Then in the area of remittances, for example, like Bitcoin has helped a lot. And I think although we're in the process of starting to understand that, especially now with Bitnob's partnership with Strike and Coin Corner, we're able to see that it is possible to easily do remittances within Africa and also outside of Africa through Bitcoin. And I think we just need to push that narrative a lot more, so more Africans jump on board. And I'm super grateful for like Bitcoin projects like Machankra, for example, that makes it possible for people with feature phones to have access to Bitcoin. I think that is a major changer because like there are a lot of people in Africa who still use feature phones. That is the most affordable phone out there. So now there's no excuse for Africans not to have access to Bitcoin. It's just, what are we doing from our end to inform more Africans about it? So yeah, I'm actually quite grateful, but I really wish there were more Africans talking about their economy as well with such passion and positive light as a lot of other Bitcoiners are. And like I said, it's just I don't know who planted the seeds, but like we shouldn't be so quick to like look at Africa from the negative point of view, because if only we could articulate the good things, right? I know that a lot of people would literally see Africa truly for what it really is.
Brilliant. And with you personally, I want to focus on you personally, Mary, if that's okay. When did you first realize or discover Bitcoin was something different, and how did that evolve for you?
So I had my first contact with Bitcoin in 2015, like late 2015, early 2016. At that time, I was meant to be in law school, but I had a gap year due to some certain issues. So I decided to go into freelance writing because my sister happened to convince me. She was like, you write well, why don't you offer that as a service? So one of my clients, they reached out to me and they were like, hey, would you be open to receiving payment in Bitcoin?
Okay.
At that time, I had no idea what Bitcoin was, but luckily for me, my sister was already doing research about Bitcoin, and I think she bought Bitcoin at that time as well. She also orange pilled my dad
Nice.
at that time. Yeah,
What a
so
brilliant sister.
I know, right? She's amazing. So like she orange pilled my dad. They used Bitcoin to solve a major like payment issue. My dad's into IT, so like one of the things that he does is to renew like domain name and hostings for his clients and other stuff. So paying for the domain and hosting was a hassle, and my sister found Bitcoin.
Nice.
And that was the time when Lightning wasn't even in existence. And it solved that major problem really quickly. And so my sister went deeper into it. So I told my sister, I was like, they're asking if if they can pay me in Bitcoin. And she was like, please tell them you accept Bitcoin. I'll solve everything from my end. I was like, okay, cool. So I told my client that, yes, I accept Bitcoin. My sister set up my first Bitcoin wallet. And I received my first set of Bitcoin. The project at that time, I remember it clearly, was $400. And at that time, I think Bitcoin was about $400-ish or so. So I got paid 1 Bitcoin, or almost, which is wild.
Amazing.
Unfortunately for me, I didn't know much about Bitcoin, so I sold all of it.
Yeah.
But
Happens.
that experience still, stuck with me. So in 2017, I got more serious about personal finance. And then 2018, I was walking from work to the house, and I was just thinking about my savings account and some of my other investments. And I was like, this doesn't add up. Like, inflation is this percentage. The Naira is devaluing, and the bank and these other investments are not giving me enough to offset the inflation rate. It just doesn't make sense. But at that time, it didn't occur to me that like Bitcoin could be the solution. It was later on that I started doing more research on Bitcoin and the blockchain and stuff, and I was like, you know what? If I am gonna say that I'm into personal finance, because at that time I was like really into personal finance, that people were even calling me for advice. So if I'm gonna go out there and be like, hey, I'm into personal finance, then it only makes sense for me to invest in Bitcoin, so that I'd be in integrity, right? Like
Right. Street cred.
So exactly. So I bought Bitcoin over a platform called Luno, which was great. And my first experience was like, okay, I bought this Bitcoin, that's awesome. And I remember I kept checking the wallet to see if the Bitcoin would disappear. So like after a couple of weeks, I was like, okay, this Bitcoin's not going anywhere. It's still there. But I had this longing in my heart that this Bitcoin is actually great, but like I wish it were easier to buy Bitcoin. I want to be able to buy this Bitcoin without having to ask my help from my sister. I want to be able to buy it on a regular basis and not just like a one-off and just forget about it. Because I felt like I'll be better able to positively appreciate Bitcoin if I bought it on a regular basis. And so just as if my prayer was answered, like I was scrolling on Twitter at 2 a.m. in the morning, and I came across this promotional video of Bitnob, which is the company I work at now. And I was like, wow, what is this beautiful app? And I saw Bitcoin. I was like, oh, okay, cool. I need to download this. Maybe this could be the solution to my problem. And so I downloaded Bitnob, and Bitnob had this savings feature, which allowed you to save in Bitcoin on a regular basis, DCA. So I bought Bitcoin. It was easy, and then I could save on a regular basis, weekly, monthly, and I was so excited. So that's how I went full into Bitcoin. And then when I joined Bitnob, the Bitnob team, I was like, this is it. I'm not going back. I did have some crypto, but like I no longer look at that anymore. Like it's Bitcoin all the way for me. And yeah, that's where I am right now.
It's interesting because I think a lot of people I personally speak to from Africa or my first contact point with Bitcoin was actually paying someone in South Africa. So like I've got like the personal connection there as well.
That's so cool.
And all of them tell me either it solved the remittance problem or it was like, if I do the math and like this is inflation, this is the devaluation of our money, Bitcoin offers this, like, yes, it has its swings and such, but that's peanuts compared to what usually happens. I always find it interesting that that's like the recurring theme coming back to people. And from the sounds of it, like you got started thanks to your sister and you just kept going down a rabbit hole and eventually realizing, oh shit, I could actually work in this. And that's what you do these days. So like, that's an amazing rabbit hole story to hear someone to start at one end that really literally never coming out of that journey. Was there anything particular that made you stick with Bitnob? I'm just curious. Was it that savings feature or was it also the people, the culture? What was it?
Yeah. So, I think just to give more context, when I came across Bitnob, I was into fintech, right? So like I used to review a lot of fintech apps. So I first looked at Bitnob from that angle. Like, is this a good investment platform for people that or like something I could recommend to the young people in Nigeria? Will it be easy for people to buy Bitcoin with? So I looked at it from that angle. Like, is it easy for people to buy Bitcoin? What made me really intrigued about Bitnob was the fact that there was like this auto savings feature. Because I came from I came from this period where I wasn't disciplined with my money. And so like for all the fintech apps, what saved me the most was that auto savings feature. Like I don't know where I would be without them. So like that literally endeared me to the app. But then the more I studied the app, because I had a podcast on fintech then, so like I had to study the app and review it so I can share like my thoughts on it to my audience. I started seeing more potential around Bitcoin, around Bitnob rather. So like when I did the podcast episode on Bitnob, the Bitnob team, they really loved it and they welcomed me, and some of them reached out to me, which is really great. And then when they were doing this customer survey thing, I got to speak with one of the customer service officials, and they were really friendly and nice. And before I knew it, I got connected to the CEO of Bitnob, and I was like, wow, these people are really nice and very welcoming. And the CEO of Bitnob, Bernard Para, he was like, hey, would you be open to, doing our podcast, the Bitnob podcast? And I was like, yeah, sure, count me in. So the day I started, which is October 2021, I can't forget, it was a game changer for me, because it was like I left this whole fintech space. I don't know, maybe it's the way my mind works. Like when I work for anywhere, like I like to immerse myself in the company, immerse myself in the product. So when I started working in Bitnob, there was I was on a stand-up meeting, and the COO was like, how can we make Bitnob a lifestyle app? And from that moment on, I was like, yeah, I'm going to find a way to make Bitnob a lifestyle app for me. Mm-hmm. And then from Bitnob, I started expanding it to how can I make Bitcoin a lifestyle for myself? So yeah, and then to answer your question, Joel, the culture of Bitnob, the people there, the way they were so welcoming and so open to, your personal development and like your input, really made me so happy. And I just felt at home. In fact, they have, so their core values, and it's written on their website, and their core values is logic. So logic is an acronym for low ego, ownership, grit, integrity, and crazy. So when I like first heard their core values, I resonated with every single one of them. And I was like, for a company to uphold these as their core values, like it says a lot, because it doesn't just affect the company, it also affects you as a person, as an individual. And if you look at those core values, you get to see that if you stick by them, like you become a better version of yourself. And Bitnob just gave me personally, I don't know anybody else's experience, but for me, Bitnob gave me the opportunity to be a better version of myself. And I just get to show that and shine that light while doing my work at Bitnob. So yeah, it's just an amazing place to work personally.
And those principles of logic seem very similar to the ethos around Bitcoin, right? The ownership and the integrity and the grit, like proof of work, and the crazy, because we're all a little bit crazy in the Bitcoin space, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So, was you always into gaming then, Mary, or how did that whole other side of your... Because, like, if I think about you on Twitter, if I see you, I'm like, okay, she has her stuff for Bitnob. You also do a lot of content there, but then the real thing I have you in mind is like, okay, that's the Bitcoin gaming girl. How did that get started for you then?
Oh my gosh. It's so interesting that my whole Bitcoin journey was actually affected by, or came about as a result of each member of my family. So Bitcoin, I got into Bitcoin because of my sister, and then my mom was the person who's responsible for me to get into Bitcoin gaming. And it's a very interesting story. So my mom's from the Philippines. There's this whole Axie Infinity thing that was happening at the time. And so even though it crashed, right, that culture of playing games and earning something was still in the Filipino framework. So it didn't really leave them. So my mom was on Facebook, and she was seeing all these like people, her relatives and people in the family would play some certain games and earn some cash. And so she got curious, and she was like, I also want to play games. And my mom likes playing all these, games like bubble shooters and stuff like that. So she's more of a gamer than myself, to be quite honest. But like, so she came to our room, and while I and my sister were working, and she was like, can you guys find a game for me that I can play and actually earn something? So I and my sister were like, okay, we'll find something. And then we were like, when she left, I and my sister were discussing, and we were like, we weren't like eager to have her on Axie Infinity or any crypto game. So I was like, is there a Bitcoin version of this? Like, are there Bitcoin games out there? So I think I was on the App Store, and I wrote Bitcoin game, and one of Thunder games came up. We downloaded it, tried it. I tried it for myself. I mean, I wanted to make sure that whatever game I'm recommending to my mom, I've tried it already. So I tried it for myself. I was like, oh, this is cool. I was able to, earn some Bitcoin. And I was like, okay, I think this is something that I could recommend to my mom. So we had my mom onboarded. She got her wallet and started playing. And now, like, every day she announces how many Satoshi she has in her Bitcoin wallet. It's a huge thing now. Like, every day she doesn't miss it. She's like, now I have XYZ number of Satoshis. So she plays really hard. And I was now like, okay. So I started doing more research. I came across Thunder Games, found out that they had like more games than the one I found on the App Store, downloaded them myself, played them, recommended to my mom. Then I came across Zebedee. I came across a couple of other games. And then I don't know how my brain did that correlation, because I think at that time I was also watching a lot of Twitch streamers. I just loved watching them play games. I was like, wouldn't it be cool to have a Bitcoin version of this, like where people are playing Bitcoin games and people get to watch the gameplay, maybe even earn sats on the live stream. It was just a question I asked myself, but at that time I was a little scared to just venture into it, because I didn't even know where to start from. And that was, I think, January 2022 when I thought of that idea. I think I still have the tweet. I tweeted it out, like, wouldn't it be cool? And then some Bitcoiners were like, yeah, like, we would be happy to watch you play. But at that time, it was like, okay, how about if I play things like Minecraft and then maybe give out sats? That was what I was thinking. And then I now said, no, let me just play Bitcoin only games and, you know, create that, let people know that it's possible to be a Bitcoiner and game and be into like, and be able to like show people that they could also, that gamers could also have some interaction with Bitcoin. So in June 2022, I just decided to go for it. Set up, didn't know what I was doing, watched a bunch of tutorials, set everything up for the first time, and I started playing. I had a couple of people join in, watch me stream. I did have some ups and downs with internet connection and everything, because in Africa, like, internet connection is an issue. But I was determined to like show it as a proof of concept that it is possible to do this. And then in the process of doing this, I came across another person who's also a Bitcoin gamer. His name is Bobby. So we were the only two people at that time. But like, I know that in 2021, Jack Everett from Thunder Games, he used to stream a couple of Thunder games at that time. I don't know why he stopped though, but like watching his videos just gave me that that confidence that I can do this too. And so like I and Bobby, we were putting up videos, going live on Twitch, doing our promotions. I would promote his stuff, he would promote mine. So that sort of created somewhat of a mini Bitcoin gaming ecosystem. Now I decided to take it up a notch, like literally say any Bitcoiner who creates content around gaming, whatever it is, whether if it's video or you stream on Twitch or whatever, you are part of the Bitcoin Gamer Squad. So we're like, I think 7 now. We're like 7 Bitcoiners who create Bitcoin gaming content in our own way. And I just decided to just keep doing these promotions for everyone. Like, there's this guy, Toriman, he does amazing TikTok gaming videos. Like, it's just super fascinating, all the TikTok videos he does. I don't know how he does them, but they're just super cool. You have Kryptonator, who has a YouTube channel, and he has done like game reviews of some of the Thunder games on his channel. Then you have Bobby, who streams on Twitch, and then he also has a YouTube channel where he puts up these games. So we just promote each other, and hopefully, like, my goal is that by the end of this year we should be 10 in number at the very least. So if
there's anyone out there listening to this, you could make it to the 10. Come on, guys.
I would sign up, but my problem is if I start streaming, if I play FIFA, I think people wouldn't watch because, like, I'm horrible with swearing and, like, throwing stuff around. If you ever thought, like, shooting games are dangerous, you've never played FIFA properly. So I'm, like, maybe unofficially incognito in the background.
No, I think it's good. Like, just be yourself, right? Like, I mean, I just prefer to stay PG because I don't know who's watching.
True.
Because there's this guy, I don't know if you guys know him. His name is Sam Day. He's actually, I think, 10 or 11 years old, and he builds like I think he was the one who did Satsman. So I'm like, so anytime I stream, in my head I'm like, what if Sam Day is watching this?
Right.
So like,
I can tell you from a conference I met him last week, he definitely has heard some bad words as well. But obviously we want to keep it clean for the kids.
Yeah, so that's my preference, but I feel like, man, you should go and do it because you never know who's watching. In fact, there is a Bitcoin football game. You know, they want to launch really soon. So it's called Satoshi's Goal.
Nice.
So that exists,
nice.
Which is really cool and super fun. I'm thinking of doing like a Twitch stream on them really soon. So like, and I feel like this is a nice way to create more exposure to games in Bitcoin. And like, we are Bitcoiners, but like we also have a life. There's some things that we like to just chill out and play games. Why not tell them about the different Bitcoin games that are out there? Like, there is literally a game for everybody. So if you're the kind of person that likes all these shooting games, there's Hellfire Arena by Guilds. If you're into car racing, you have Bitcoin Kart by Zebedee. You also have Turbo 84 by Thunder. Like, if you're more into like chill games, like hyper casual games, Thunder Games has like a bunch of them. So there's like literally games for everybody. So and then another thing that I have in mind is like, what if we can make these Twitch streams super fun, such that an average gamer who comes on Twitch, stumbles upon your stuff. They probably know nothing about Bitcoin, but end up like learning about Bitcoin through you. So there's that possibility, because come to think of it, if you are a gamer and you start on Twitch, like, it literally takes, for some gamers, it took them about 3 to 5 years of constantly streaming before they could make some money. But like, as a Bitcoin gamer, like, you can earn something right from the get-go. I know that, and I was having this conversation with someone today, from the first 3 months of like going into Bitcoin gaming, streaming on Twitch, I was able to make about 40 to 50,000 sats in 3 months. And I know that gamers, it may not be much, but like, I know that Twitch, those gamers who start off on Twitch, they make nothing in the first 3 months. Like, literally nothing. You have no access to like the Twitch features where you can like subscribe or send them some money. Like, that's not available for you because you've not hit that rank yet. So like, it's just there's just so many opportunities in gaming for a lot of people. So yeah, and I know that there are some stories for there's like some gamers in Brazil who use Zebedee, played some games by Zebedee, like I think the CS:GO, and they were able to pay house rent just by gaming, which is really great. And this wouldn't have been possible if not for Bitcoin. So there's so many opportunities out there.
I was just thinking, that was awkward. So
Age before beauty.
I know. Oh, thank you, darling. I've lost my train of thought as well. But ultimately, like you say it's only like 5,000 sats here and 5. If you long enough time frame down the line, like you imagine how much those sats in the deflationary environment, once Bitcoin becomes more and more popular, is actually going to be worth. So it's really, you're investing in something that's going to grow over time.
Yeah, well,
exactly.
I wanted to say basically the same thing, like Mary said before. If someone manages to get to 10,000 sats through streaming, maybe, having a side hustle, writing review articles, they can buy food in Nigeria. How far does that go the more deeper you go into these things? So I think it's another use case to show like Bitcoin has different paths of getting people through life. And you even have fun with it. So like, this is, I think, the most important thing right now. So what's currently your favorite game then, Mary?
Oh my gosh, that is so hard. So you put me on the spot right now. Okay, so I can't just pick one, but like a game that I go back to all the time is Turbo 84 by Thunder Games. And then recently I came across, Hell's Fire Arena, and I'm kind of addicted to that now by Guilds. I know they have like tournaments, and they give out sats during those tournaments, so that's like another great opportunity, and it's a high quality game. I think it's really cool. So those are the two games.
Is it like a first shooter
so
game?
Yeah, so it's like, think of it like it's almost like Call of Duty ish. Like, you have people, they just put you in an arena and you're just shooting to to get to the next level. So it's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool game. I never thought I could kill so many people in a game.
Kill for sats.
Where do you see gaming in the future as Bitcoin becomes more popular?
Ooh, so that's a good question, because you can take it from so many different angles. Because what I've realized is that in gaming, you have different moving parts and you have different actors in the gaming space. You have the content creators, so those who create content around the game. So maybe they're streaming, they write about these games, or they do videos about them. So you have the content creators, you have the game developers, you have the gaming studios, and then you have the whole ecosystem together. So like, I'm gonna just touch on those different parts. So like for a gaming content creator, I feel like this could be like in the future, I see more opportunities for gaming content creators, in the sense that a time will come when the Bitcoin Gamer Squad, because those are the ones I know who are constantly talking about Bitcoin games. So I know that in the future, the Bitcoin Gamer Squad, they are going to be like Bitcoin gaming influencers, where a Bitcoin gaming studio can literally approach them and be like, hey, can you do a game review of my game, or can you do this UGC video of my game, or like could you do a set of videos or voiceovers or whatever, like different things. And that could be like another income stream aside from the sats that they earn from the gaming content that they create. So like that is a future that I envision, and I'm working towards making possible for the Bitcoin gaming content creators in the future. So that's one aspect. Then for gaming developers, I feel like in the future we'll see like a lot more. Like I believe that there'll be a lot of Web3 game developers who will jump ship and go into creating games for Bitcoin, because like it's not sustainable. We've seen it, Axie Infinity, we've seen a lot of other ones. These crypto projects don't last, and if you want to like be in a stable ecosystem that is built to last, then I know that some of these game developers would consider going into Bitcoin gaming development. And a great thing about Bitcoin game development is that there is a lot of space to create Bitcoin gaming tools that can be used not only in the Bitcoin space, but also in the general crypto space, which is something I look forward to. Because, so like my sister, she studied law as well, but she's also a developer. So we've been talking about a couple of Bitcoin gaming tools. So I've asked her, I was like, can you build this tool for me to make streaming a lot better, or sharing sats on my streams a lot better than what the manual process that I have. There was a time when I was streaming and we were talking about something like this, and there were a couple of people in the chat that were like, I wish there was this kind of solution for us gamers. I wish there was this other solution for us. So like that could be like another avenue for game developers to look into, and also like Lightning engineers to also see. Maybe they could be like, okay, we can build something for gaming that's not just restricted to the Bitcoin gaming space, but also open to people in Web3. And who knows, that could be like the Trojan horse to bring them into Bitcoin. So then the gaming studios, I think the gaming studios we're going to have more gaming studios, Bitcoin gaming studios, and it's going to be like huge competition in the sense that like, if you look at the gaming studios right now, or the companies that are built, that are focused on Bitcoin gaming, you see that they are quite unique from each other. Not only in the terms of the kind of games that they create, but also in the way they approach, compensations for the gamers, like how they distribute sats, how they like which wallets am I allowed to use any wallet to withdraw my sats into. And I've noticed that a lot of the users of these Bitcoin games, they've started like sort of choosing their favorites among the different Bitcoin companies based on these little details. So there could be like in the future, there could be like stiffer competition happening within the between Bitcoin gaming studios, where they're trying to differentiate themselves from the other gaming studios in the area of how can we serve these people who play our games better? How can we create better gaming communities that they can find a place in? How do we give higher like prize pools, like to pull more people into these games? How can we make ourselves different in terms of the culture of our game, the culture that our games portray? Like, how do we make it possible for our users to identify themselves with us? Like, for example, Thunder Games released the Thunder badges. So, like, if you're on Nostra and you play Thunder Games, people get to see your Thunder badges, and that identifies you as a Thunder stan. You know, like that could be a thing. And imagine you having like a Thunder badge, and someone has like a Zebedee badge, and you're like, man, I'm pro Thunder, and the other one will be like, no, I'm pro Zebedee. Like something like that could happen. Like there could be this interesting competition.
Healthy competition.
Exactly, going on. So, and then in terms of the games itself, the Bitcoin games itself, I do believe that we'll see a huge improvement in the Bitcoin games that get put out there. The current games that we have in the Bitcoin gaming space are actually really good. But I feel that we have a lot of them leaning towards hyper casual. I do see a future where we'll start seeing a lot of 3D games, maybe battle royale style games, to sort of be on the same league as what we have in the fiat gaming space, right? So like we would start seeing that, and you know that also would be quite interesting in the space. So I know that Zebedee is actually making a lot of big moves in that area. Like I mean, I've seen like them do this integration with the metaverse and stuff, like all those stuff, and integrate Bitcoin into that. So like we're going to see a lot of forward-thinking, future-focused games in the Bitcoin gaming space, and that's like my prediction. And then an additional thing to the game developers, I can't believe I forgot about this, but one of the Bitcoin gaming projects that I'm currently working on is to sort of create like this space where you can have a where people who are into development can actually have the opportunity to choose what kind of Bitcoin development they want to go into. Currently, it's like you're either a Lightning engineer or you're a Lightning engineer. But like, I see a future where developers will be given a choice. They'll have an opportunity to choose which camp they want to go into, and they can literally say, hey, I want to go into game development and see how I can use my talents in the gaming space. So that's also another thing that I see in the future, which I hope I succeed in doing. I'm not a developer, which makes it a lot harder, but I do see that there is a huge space and potential here. So as more people are looking at Web3, I think this is a great time for us in the Bitcoin space to like, you know, make an impression, and also hopefully get these people out of crypto and into Bitcoin.
I think it's amazing what you're doing. I think the signal that you're providing for Bitcoin is strong, and you're just building something on top of a solid foundation, which is Bitcoin, and the amount of industries that are going to thrive as a result of that, including gaming being one of them. Because, you know, how many people are playing games nowadays? It's like, you know, going back to my days now when I was born, quite a few many years ago, when gaming first started coming to existence, it used to be a little pixel on the screen, and it became like a Spectrum ZX, and then the Nintendo Entertainment System, and it's just evolved exponentially to like the virtual reality type games we've got at the moment. But and obviously, gaming is something that people spend a lot of hours doing, and if you can bring Bitcoin into that, then you're onto a winner as far as I'm concerned. So well done for all the hard work that you're doing in the gaming industry on behalf of Bitcoin. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Ian.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, you actually combine a lot of positive incentives. Like, because if I think back to my gaming days with friends, You used to meet in like World of Warcraft after school, or I had a brief League of Legends time, but I just sucked. I was probably even worse than SBF, and that says a lot of stuff. But I didn't spend as much time in the game as he did, so at least I'm safe there. But you have this social aspect, and the more time you can spend, for example, if it's in a competition, saying like, oh, I can't believe Mary has like 2,000 sats this month, and I only have 500, whatever it is, you immediately have Bitcoin at a different focal point, where you don't talk about like price and monetary policy and all of the stuff we usually speak about on Twitter, but you actually speak of it as a gaming use case, as a social use case, as a lifestyle use case, and I think that could be quite a big step, and yeah, especially in Africa, like you said, people are now literally able to buy food by playing a game on their phones or on their computer. So just thinking about that that's quite fascinating.
Totally, and it's super fun. I really feel like we can still push the borders of what we can achieve through Bitcoin, because like when I share some of these ideas, especially when in the area of incorporating Bitcoin as part of your lifestyle, and I share these ideas with people, they're like, I never thought of it from this angle. It's like now I'm actually quite curious about UGC, and I ask myself, like, UGC stands for user I can't speak English, user generated content. So how that works is that you create like I don't know, a minute video or 2-minute video of you talking about a product in a way that's natural. So it seems like, you did this video on your own, unknown to other people that you were paid for this. But anyway, so like I asked myself, like, how can this apply to Bitcoin, or the Bitcoin space? Like, how can Bitcoin companies leverage on something like this? Like, and for content creators in Bitcoin, like, how can they create like this kind of content and add value to the Bitcoin space? Because in Bitcoin, we still see a lot of people use, the popular influencers or like, random people, but we have creative people in Bitcoin as well. So how can we up the quality? Like, how can we position these creative people in Bitcoin such that they see these opportunities for themselves? I don't think there are many creative or like content. I don't think there are many content creators in the Bitcoin space who have thought about actually creating UGC videos for Bitcoin companies. But we need people to start talking about it and actually see how we can apply what's happening in the fiat world to Bitcoin, and just and literally holding true the Bitcoin principle. Because if we want to go in and go into hyper Bitcoinization, it's not just about everybody having access to Bitcoin or being able to buy like stuff from any shop all over the world, but it is like, how can we continue doing some of the stuff that we're already used to, but in the Bitcoin way? So I think we need to start looking at it from a practical sense.
Yeah, I guess there's a lot of stuff that we can use from the fiat world. I'm always fascinated if I speak to like very talented Bitcoin artists, illustrators. Just looking at a poster out of frame here that I ordered, I'm like, well, why didn't you literally tell people that like I can pay you in sats? It doesn't even have to be like Bitcoin art, but different things. And you are like the perfect example, Mary. Like, you spoke about Bitnob, you played the Thunder games, and this is how like business relationships are formed, right? So it's also a great use case for these creators to actually get in contact and do the very important first step and get out there. Before we close up, is there anything you would like to spread with the audience? Anything in particular you would like to feature? Or maybe anything we forgot to ask you?
So I just want to, drop a couple words of advice to creators. So there are a lot of really amazing creators in Bitcoin. I've seen artists, writers, those who create video and podcasts. I just want to, encourage everyone to, push push the bar, like see how far you can go. I can't remember how it was properly put. Like there's this lady who is the founder of Bitcoin Dada, and she said something during the International Women's Day Twitter space that we hosted Bitnob, that Bitnob hosted on Twitter. And she said this really cool thing, and I wanted to just share it. I'm paraphrasing here, but it's like, try as much as you can to swim outside the shores. Don't just, stay in the middle. Like, try and swim outside the shores as much as you can. Like, these ideas that I came up with, I mean, they're not original, right? I saw it happen in the fiat space. I asked myself, is it possible in Bitcoin? So, like, what can you do to bring what's happening in the fiat space in the Bitcoin space, and how can you offer this to people in Bitcoin? So just want to encourage creators to just do that.
That's brilliant. Thank you. That's great advice. And Mary, thank you for spending the last hour with us. We very much appreciated it. And I've learned a lot, and I'm going to maybe go and play a game now and hopefully earn some sats. So thank you so much.
Mission accomplished.
Yeah, I'm down your gaming rabbit hole now. So thank you for that.
I mean, Ian, we heard it before off cab. Like, your family are they home now, or are you still alone at the home? You could use the time and get gaming.
My stepdaughter's downstairs, I think.
Oh, okay.
I think she's probably playing the game, so.
Yeah, great. Anyway, Mary, it was great having you on. Where can people find you on the interwebs?
So thank you so much for having me. You can find me on Twitter. My handle is at Mary _Imasuen. That's at MARY _IMASUEN. And you can also join me on Twitch on Mondays. I stream every Monday at 9 p.m. West African time, 8 p.m. GMT, 3 p.m. Eastern on Twitch. And my name is Mary Imasuen on Twitch. So yeah, just come find me. Let's hang out.
Perfect. Everything will be linked at the show notes. I hope you have a great evening, and I'm excited to have you on soon in the future, because there's many different games being developed right now.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast.
Thanks. Talk soon.